Your boss says, you need to be more strategic. You're thinking, what does this even mean? Worse, it's not the first time you've heard it. It was in last year's review too. It's important, but no one has really translated it and told you what it means and what you need to do differently. In this video, I'll show you what it means to be more strategic and practical moves that can help you demonstrate it in your organization. Let's dive straight in. You need to be more strategic. It shows up in performance reviews or maybe one-on-ones, and it creates the same response every time, frustration. You know that it matters, you just don't know what to do differently. So you try harder. More analysis, more slides, more preparation. That's almost never what leaders mean when they say be more strategic. So you get the same feedback again next year because none of those things addresses the actual problem. The problem is that no one has ever translated the feedback into what they actually want, what they want you to do differently, an action plan that you can implement. That gap between what leaders say and what professionals hear is where careers stall. Not because of lack of intelligence or effort, but because no one handed them a translation. What leaders mean when they say be more strategic are things like these. Align your work to the direction of the organization. Connect to and address the problems and pressures and priorities of the organization. Be aware and adapt to the systems and constraints that you're operating within. Bring forth decisions and implications, not just reports or analysis. To be more strategic, you first need to see more strategic. Have you ever looked out the window of an airplane at 30,000 feet? Things look different from up there. You can see great distances and where things are in relationship to one another. That's what bigger picture thinking and visibility look like. Strategic thinking is a skill. It's a specific set of signals that your communication either sends or doesn't. Once you learn what those signals are, you can learn to send them deliberately. We'll cover 4 of them in this video. Signal 1, strategic direction. Experts solve for today, leaders solve for tomorrow. The first question a strategic professional asks isn't what's the best solution? Instead, it's where are we going? What is the organization committed to and why? Every recommendation should be anchored to that destination so it can land. When you don't know the organizational direction and destination, how can you help them get there? As a result, your ideas float. They may be technically excellent, but if no one sees the connection between what you're proposing and where the organization's going, it doesn't feel strategic. Wayne Gretzky, the legendary hockey player, when asked why he was so successful, he said he didn't skate to where the puck was, he skated to where the puck was going to be. This is a profound strategic principle. If you're proposing increased funding to a division that's going to be spun off or a system that's going to be retired and replaced, it's not likely to get funded. It's not strategic. It's a disconnect. Leaders usually have a long-term plan. You may not be privy to it, you may not have visibility, but that's okay. So strategic information is not symmetrical in an organization. The closer you are to the top, the more that you know. It's always wise to ask your boss. Ask if there are other factors or initiatives or information you should take into consideration for the work you're doing or the proposal you're making. The failure mode for this signal is your recommendation seems unanchored. It's not obvious to them why this, why now, what to do. Review the vision, the mission, the values, the strategies. If you don't understand them, ask questions. Ironically, this can increase the perception of you being more strategic. Find a way to connect what you're proposing to the direction the organization is already heading. Signal 2, strategic priorities. You're focused on your work. Leaders are focused on their priorities. The second question strategic professionals ask is how does my work fit with their pressures and priorities and problems? Leaders aren't evaluating your ideas in isolation. They're evaluating it against other opportunities that are competing for limited resource. So you need to be clear about how your project addresses their pressures, their problems, their pain points, their priorities. Even though the strategic direction from Signal 1 might be clear, there are many paths to get there. This is where strategic priorities come into play. Oftentimes, organizations or functions have a strategic roadmap or vision pathway. This is a multiple-year document that shows how all the pieces fit together to help get them from where they are to where they need to be. The professionals who are recognized as strategic are the ones who connect what they're doing to the funded priorities. Another way you can be more strategic is to expand your view. When you open the aperture from executing today to a 3-year plan, it requires more resources. And more resources require strategic choice. And in order to make strategic choices, you need to understand the strategic priorities. This opens the door for strategic discussions with leaders about aligning on what's important and what gets approved. Calling out a next step is good, but calling out how the stepping stones connect together, that's strategic. That's what leaders are looking for. Not just what you're working on, but how it connects with the sequence of things that the organization's building. The failure mode is that you see the next step, but not how it connects with the strategic priorities. What to do? Before your next presentation, ask how this connects with the pressures and the problems and the pain points and the priorities in your organization. And how does it connect with the roadmap of initiatives that have already been resourced? If you can't answer that, the leaders are going to feel the strategic gap. Signal 3, system awareness. You're optimizing for your function. Leaders are optimizing for the system. The third question strategic professionals ask isn't, is my idea good? It's, how does it fit with the system? Does it fit with how the organization actually works? Systems exist for a reason, and they're finely tuned. They're optimized to get things done in a way that's efficient and effective, which oftentimes results in how an organization creates value. Ignore the system, and your idea will be attacked by the immune system of the organization. Not because it's wrong, but because it doesn't fit. Every organization has established ways of working. Some visible, like the org chart or certain meetings. Some are invisible, like the wiring between functions and how decisions are actually made. When you don't understand the system, even sound ideas collide with it. Leaders aren't just evaluating your idea, they're filtering it through budget exposure, political capital, risk, performance requirements. They're filtering it through the rules of the system. If your framing and how you communicate your idea doesn't acknowledge those constraints and connect with the system it needs to live in, it feels like it came from someone who's operating in a vacuum and who doesn't really understand what's going on. Failure mode. Your idea is sound, but it ignores the system that it actually operates in. What to do? Map the systems before you present. Who has the decision rights? Where does the budget actually live? Which functions are affected? What commitments or initiatives or projects are already in place? Technical minds want to solve. Strategic minds want to choose. The fourth question strategic professionals ask isn't, what did I find? It's, what do I recommend? Leaders don't want a spreadsheet, an analysis of everything you found, or a 50-slide presentation deck. They want a point of view and a recommendation. Leaders love to make decisions, but to reduce risk, those leaders need to be well informed. The costs, the trade-offs, the returns, the implications, the risks. They want the full meal deal, not a la carte. They want the full package. The Latin stem cis lives inside both the words decision and the word scissors. It means to cut. When leaders make a decision, they're cutting away other options. Every decision eliminates an alternative. If you don't surface what you're giving up and what the implications are, it feels like you're doing half the work. When you hand leaders an analysis but not a recommendation, you've done the research, but you've left the hardest part undone, and you're handing it back to them. The failure mode for this one is an insider analysis without taking a stance and making a recommendation. Before you walk in the room, complete the sentence. I recommend X because of Y. The main risk is Z. What we're trading away is W. If you can't complete it, you're not ready to present. The discomfort of taking a position is exactly where strategic credibility is built. Deliver a recommendation with full accountability. The what, the costs, the risks, the implications, the trade-offs. How do you become more strategic? Run your next high-stakes meeting through the strategic signal scan. Number 1, strategic direction. Is my recommendation aligned with where the organization is heading? 2, strategic priorities. Does this connect to what the organization is building over time? 3, system awareness. Does this reflect how the organization actually works? 4, decision package. Have I delivered a full, actionable recommendation? That's it. Just 4 questions before you walk in the room to identify any potential strategic gaps. Once you've diagnosed a gap with strategic direction or strategic priorities or fit with a system or an incomplete decision, the move is always the same. Build connective tissue. Build an explicit bridge between your idea and what the organization is already committed to. Not implied, not assumed, but explicit. The bridge and all of those connections is what makes an idea feel inevitable instead of optional. It's the difference between a recommendation that moves and one that sits. We'll go deep on connective tissue in a future article because it's so important. For now, you have 4 signals. You can do the signal scan. Your 4 signals are really just one skill. It's learning to speak the language of the organization. Once you understand the organization and how it operates, you can build those connections. One last tip. Be sure to use the words that the organization uses so that it feels natural to them. Strategic thinking is very important, but it's rarely urgent. It doesn't have a deadline, so it gets put off again and again. If you want to be strategic, you need to create time for strategic thinking and connect your work to the bigger picture. That's the shift. It's not rocket science, but it takes intentionality to become strategic.